Hey guys, in this video we're gonna talk about coffee. Yes, coffee. I think this is a really important subject. Why? Because in the Western world, and I think around the world, I'm not 100% sure, but a lot of people drink coffee. I think we can agree on that. A lot of people drink coffee. And the people that drink coffee, most people, they don't drink one a week or two a week, they drink every day a lot of coffee. So I think it's really important to know if it's healthy for you or not, especially in the long term. And then secondly, it's really good to talk about from a self-development standpoint, because a lot of people drink coffee in exam periods to study better, and some other people drink it to perform better at work. Some other people even drink it to perform better in fitness and other sports. So is it justified? Is it justified for the short term? Will it improve if you drink it? And in the long term as well, will your body get used to it? So will it keep its effect or not? So I think from these areas, I think it's a really good subject to talk about, and I will try to answer all these questions to you guys, so you guys can know if it's something you want to do, if it's something you want to stop doing, or if it's something you want to keep doing. So yeah, as you can see here, coffee contains actually a lot of vitamins and other substances like magnesium, phosphorus, and the other ones, you can see them on the list. Also, it's important to note on this list, there's only a small percentage of the daily value you need, but I think it's important to realize how much coffee people actually drink. It really adds up, and it can contribute to a really decent amount of vitamins and other substances absorbed by our body. Also, it's important to note that in coffee there's no sugar, unless you add it, of course, no fats and no protein. So the nutritional value will be close to zero, it will be kind of like water. It's not something your body is going to turn into fat, or it's not something you can use as breakfast, of course. And then another thing coffee contains is a lot of antioxidants. I think this is really important because in the Western diet there's not a lot of antioxidants, and with a lot of people, coffee is one of the main sources of the antioxidant intake. And then lastly, of course, it contains caffeine, which will cause a lot of physiological effects. I think it's important as well, to look further now on what it actually does physiologically when you drink coffee. And as you can see, what this all gives away, a lot of it will be due to caffeine. So yeah, what actually does it do physiologically? Of course, it's important to note that a lot of the physiological effect will be based on how much caffeine you take in. A lot of physiological effect won't occur or won't have a big impact if you don't drink a lot of coffee, if you only drink a cup, for example. Okay, so before we begin discussing the physiological effects, I think it's important to note that the effects of drinking coffee, the physiological effects will vary between individuals. So some individuals will have the effect more or less than the other, and we can't really predict who will have it more than the other person. Also, how caffeine makes these effects happen is by blocking a certain enzyme, phosphodiesterase, which increases cyclic AMP, which is commonly associated with stimulating the performance of certain cells, which acts as a stimulant. So it's not important to remember these names of these enzymes, of these substances. It's just for the curious people out there, and to give you an example of how it works. So what physiological effects will take place? It will increase your heart rate, it will dilate your pupils a little bit, it can increase the blood flow in your brain, which will get rid of certain toxic substances. It will also increase certain neurotransmitters. Dopamine, for example, is one of them, which is associated with your reward center, and also with your attention span and cognitive performance, but later on we'll discuss it in more detail. And then we also have an effect on the blood pressure and increasing norepinephrine and epinephrine. But in this case, it's important that blood pressure and epinephrine increase and norepinephrine increase will only take place in individuals who are not used to taking in caffeine. So people who drink coffee daily won't have this effect as much as people who drink it once a month or who just started drinking coffee. And then it's also important that it has an influence on your stomach. It will increase your gastric secretion, which for most people just makes your processing of foods a lot easier. But in some people it can also cause heartburn, especially if you didn't eat when you drink coffee, and it can cause diarrhea as well. And lastly, one group of people is important to mention here: pregnant women, because pregnant women will have a negative effect of caffeine because it constricts certain blood vessels in your placenta, which increases your chance of development disorder, and it will also give you a higher risk of contractions of your uterus, which gives you a higher chance of miscarriage. Now these chances are really small, but still it's really important to advise pregnant women to not increase their intake of caffeine and limit the use of caffeine, and also stop drinking if it's possible. But if you just keep drinking the same amount as you usually do, the risk is really, really small. But if you start increasing it for some reason because you're tired or I don't know, the risk will increase a little bit, and you don't want any risks taken with miscarriage and developmental disorders for a baby. So I think now it's really important to go on discussing the studies, like how it will affect your daily life, so we can go over the advantages and disadvantages. I'll first show you a list of the advantages and disadvantages, which you can see here, and we'll go through them one by one and then give you this list again. Okay. So the first interesting advantage of drinking coffee is it will improve your cognitive performance. So we found several studies, observational studies mostly, that show that if you drink 1 cup of coffee before doing a certain task that involves your working memory, your attention span, and your reflexes, it will increase it by 11 to 12%. So that percentage increase is calculated from the scores they get on those tasks. It's also an effect that you see in that's consistent, that you see in different studies at different times with different people. So it's commonly believed that it will increase your cognitive performance. So if you drink a cup of coffee before you do some work that involves cognitive performance, it will increase it. If you drink it 20 minutes before, and the effect will last like around 3 hours. Of course, those times will differ from people individually. So some people will have it longer, some people will have it less longer. The next thing we're going to discuss is your chances of getting Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. So actually, if you drink coffee, you will in your life, you will in the end have a lower chance of getting Alzheimer and Parkinson's, and it's a pretty big decrease in chance of getting it. It's like between 30 to 60%, depending on what study you look. And also they found in some studies that if you drink more coffee, it will have a bigger impact on the decrease in risk. Then the next subject we're going to discuss is depression and suicide. This is something people thought that would increase the likelihood of doing that if you drink coffee, because it's a lot of times people who are against it associated with drugs and other substances which increase depression and suicide. But actually, if you drink coffee, you will have a less likelihood of depression and suicide. So the effect on suicide will be 50% less chance of committing suicide, and it will be like 20% less of getting depression. So that's really good, because contrary to what people often thought in the past, it will have a beneficial effect on depression and suicide. Now, with all good things come some bad things, like most of the time at least. So what are the disadvantages of drinking coffee? I think the biggest disadvantage is the withdrawal Withdrawal is a term we use to know that your body gets used to the caffeine, to the substances that come with drinking coffee. So if you stop drinking it for a day, your body will crave it, and you will have some opposite results. You will feel some brain fog, which just means you'll be able to focus a little bit less than you're used to. You also will feel more irritated. You will feel irritated more quickly by some things, and lastly, you will feel more exhausted than you're used to. Now, the withdrawal symptoms, they can sound really bad, which they actually are, but it's important to note that those withdrawal symptoms only last for 1 or 2 days. So if you stop drinking for 2 days, some coffee, you will feel pretty bad in those 2 days, but after that it's gone completely, and you're back to your normal state. And then the other biggest advantage is, of course, it will disrupt your sleep, so you'll recover less. You'll recover less if you drink coffee like past 4 p.m. or something. So if you do that, you'll need more sleep to have the same recovery that you should get from a normal day of sleep. And then the last disadvantage I've already discussed. For pregnant women, it's really important to limit the use of caffeine or not increase it at all, because it will have a bigger chance of neurodevelopmental disorders, and also a bigger chance of miscarriage. So yeah, now we've listed all the disadvantages and advantages, and now it's important to know, like, this is something now you have to decide for yourself. Is it something I want to do? Is it something I want to continue doing? Is it something I want to stop doing? So yeah, that was a whole list of like the advantages, disadvantages I found that are really proven in some studies and are like the most significant in my opinion. If I've missed some important ones, please comment down below. I will gladly make another video about it or answer it in the comments. And what do you make of these advantages, disadvantages? This is my opinion. I think if you drink coffee, there's no reason to stop drinking coffee, because I think the health benefits outweigh the risks of drinking coffee. If you don't drink coffee, is it a reason to start drinking coffee? I think there's not like that big of a health benefit that you should drink coffee if you don't like it. If you need to force yourself to do it. So I don't think it's a reason to start drinking coffee, especially if you don't like it. But even though I would advise people who drink coffee to keep drinking coffee, I think it's really interesting to see these advantages and disadvantages and tell you, look, it's good that you drink coffee and it's not a bad thing, but I think it's important to note that you should try and not exaggerate the coffee intake. Like, don't drink like 10 cups a day, because that will probably not be good for your body, especially if you stop drinking coffee for a day, because then you'll feel like really, really bad. Also, try not drinking coffee past 4 p.m. because that will give you an increased likelihood of getting less recovery from your sleep, so you'll feel worse the next day, which can lead to a vicious cycle, because then you drink even more coffee to feel good again, and then you will have more withdrawal symptoms, and so on and so on. So I think it's really important to use this knowledge to drink more, to drink smaller, I guess. And also, like I've told you, if you're pregnant, if you know someone who's pregnant and drinks a lot of coffee, just try to tell them. They probably won't listen, but just tell them to reduce the intake, to not increase the intake. Because when you're pregnant, things are different, and you shouldn't drink coffee, or not in big amounts. So yeah, that's the video on coffee. I hope it was helpful. Please, if you made it this far, like and subscribe. It really helps. I'm just beginning this channel, so I need to know if people would like to see these kind of videos, so I can continue making them. I really love making them, so I would really like to keep doing this. So yeah, thank you for watching, and until next week, guys.